Could a single man with a pencil and a paper and an obsession with airplanes really prevent World War III? A quiet, brilliant airplane designer named Kelly Johnson invented some of the most secretive and advanced aircraft of the 20th century. Planes that could fly faster, higher than anything else on Earth. They called him the man who built the invisible. He led a team so secretive, so ahead of its time, that even the President of the United States barely knew what they were doing. But how did Kelly Johnson, a farm boy from Michigan, become one of the greatest airplane designers in history? Welcome to Hangar Stories. My name is Ben, and if you want to hear more stories about airplanes and pilots that help change history, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe down below. Kelly Johnson's name actually wasn't Kelly Johnson. His real name is Clarence Leonard Johnson. He was born on February 27, 1910 in Ishpeming, Michigan. The son of Swedish immigrants, Kelly grew up in a modest home. His father was a blacksmith and later a miner, disciplined, hardworking, and practical people. Those values helped shape Kelly from an early age. But even as a boy, he saw the sky not as a place of wonder, but of potential. At age 13, he saw his first airplane and was hooked. He was obsessed with how things worked, especially how they flew. By high school, he was building model aircraft and entering design competitions. He later enrolled at the University of Michigan to study aeronautical engineering. He earned his bachelor's and master's degrees there, graduating into a world on the edge of an aviation revolution. But in 1933, the Great Depression was still crippling the country. Jobs were scarce. Luckily, he caught the attention of a small aircraft company in California. You may have heard of it. Lockheed. At Lockheed, Kelly started at the bottom, literally doing stress testing and analysis on landing gear. But soon, his sharp mind and relentless attitude caught the eye of the higher-ups. His first big break? The Lockheed Model 10 Electra, an aircraft that Amelia Earhart would later fly on her ill-fated final voyage. Kelly suggested a major redesign to improve stability. His superiors dismissed him, so he ran wind tunnel tests to prove them wrong. He was right. From that moment, people realized this young engineer wasn't just smart, he was brilliant, a once-in-a-generation mind. Throughout the 1930s and 1940s, he helped develop numerous military aircraft. The P-38 Lightning, for example, a twin-boom fighter that became iconic over the skies of Europe and the Pacific. But his true legacy would begin in 1943 behind a black curtain of secrecy. In the midst of World War II, the U.S. Army Air Forces asked Lockheed to design and build a jet fighter. Germany already had jets in the air. Time was short, so they gave Kelly Johnson a deadline of only 150 days. He said, "We'll do it in 143, and he did. He formed a small team, working in a rented circus tent near a smelly plastics factory. They call it Skunk Works, a name that would become legendary. In just 143 days, Johnson and his team delivered the XP-80 Shooting Star, America's first jet fighter. It was fast, sleek, and a technological leap forward. The secret? Johnson's management style. Minimal bureaucracy, maximum innovation. His 14 rules of Skunk Works management became gospel in engineering circles. After World War II, the world didn't find peace, it found paranoia. The Cold War began. The Soviet Union was building nuclear weapons at scale. Stalin's Iron Curtain made it nearly impossible to know what was going on inside. The US needed eyes in the sky. Satellites didn't exist yet, but spy planes were the only hope. Enter Kelly Johnson. The CIA and the US Air Force turned to him. They needed a plane that could fly higher than any missile could reach and faster than any fighter could intercept. But what could Kelly Johnson possibly come up with that would allow them to fly untouched over enemy territory? Before we find out, let me tell you about the Finer Points Ground School app. Whether you're just starting your journey toward becoming a pilot or you're already certified, this app is an absolute must-have. It covers everything you need to know from aviation fundamentals, weather theory, airspace, regulations, all in a clear, engaging format. And for current pilots, it's still incredibly useful. Use it to brush up for your biennial flight review or just stay sharp with a solid refresher whenever you need it. What really sets it apart? It brings together all the FAA's free handbooks, like the Pilot's Handbook of Aeronautical Knowledge, the Aviation Weather Handbook, and others in a one easy to access place. No more digging through old government PDFs or outdated links. Everything you need to know is right there. Takeoff starts with solid ground school, and the Finer Points app is one of the best ways to start. Click the affiliate link in the description below to get more information. So, what was the plane that could fly untouched over enemy territory? The U-2. Long wings, light airframe, and powered by a single engine. Capable of cruising at 70,000 feet, well above Soviet air defenses, or so thought. U-2 flights over the USSR delivered priceless intelligence, photos of missile sites, and nuclear facilities. But then, disaster. May 1, 1960. A U-2 piloted by Francis Gary Powers was shot down over Soviet airspace. The world stood still. The US denied it at first, but the Soviets had the wreckage and the pilot. The incident nearly triggered a nuclear war. President Eisenhower halted U-2 flights from then on. Kelly Johnson knew the writing was on the wall. The next spy plane would have to be invisible. So he did something insane. Johnson proposed an aircraft that flew not just at the edge of space, but at Mach 3, over 2,200 miles per hour, faster than any rifle bullet on the planet. The design was unlike anything the world had seen. Titanium skin to withstand 1,000-degree temperatures, engines that transformed mid-flight into ramjets, stealthy angles to reduce radar signature. The result? The A-12, and later the SR-71 Blackbird. No SR-71 was ever shot down. It flew so fast it could literally outrun missiles. It could fly from Los Angeles to Washington, D.C. in just over an hour. Every time it flew, the Soviets scrambled missiles, but never hit it. For decades, it was the most important intelligence gathering platform on Earth. It kept tabs on Soviet missile silos, troop deployments, and nuclear tests. It gave the US the edge, and behind it all, Kelly Johnson. So how exactly did Johnson help prevent World War III? Simple. Intelligence. Thanks to Johnson's aircraft, the US knew what the Soviets had and what they didn't have. There was no guessing, no overreaction. We knew they weren't ready for a first strike. We knew where their missiles were, and during events like the Cuban Missile Crisis, that information meant the difference between diplomacy and nuclear war. By removing the fog of war, Johnson's planes diffused the unknown, and with it, much of the fear that could have triggered global catastrophe. It's no exaggeration to say that Kelly Johnson, through his designs, helped save the world. Kelly Johnson retired in 1975. Over his career, he worked on over 40 aircraft designs, including 13 that went from concept to flight under his direct leadership. He received 2 Collier trophies, I don't know if I'm saying that right, the Presidential Medal of Freedom, and countless other honors. But to him, the greatest legacy was the team he built at Skunk Works and the ideals they stood for: speed, secrecy, simplicity, and innovation. He passed away in 1990, but his ideas still fly today, literally. Even today, Lockheed Skunk Works continues to produce some of the world's most advanced aircraft, including modern stealth drones and next-gen fighters, all inspired by his vision. When we think of history's greatest minds, Einstein, Da Vinci, Tesla, we usually think of science, not defense. But maybe we should include Kelly Johnson, because while generals prepared for war, he designed for peace. A peace born not of ignorance, but of knowing. So next time you see a photo of the Blackbird slicing through the stratosphere, remember, it wasn't just an airplane. It was a warning, a watchtower, a technological miracle born from pencil and paper, designed not to fight, but to prevent the greatest war the world has never known. And behind it was one brilliant mind, Kelly Johnson. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this story, consider subscribing and hitting that like button and the bell icon below. Let us know in the comments, which Kelly Johnson aircraft do you think was the most important? What other hidden figures from history should we cover next? Until next time, fly safe.